Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really great. I watched your film yesterday and absolutely loved Hangdog, so
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Um, what drew you to Walt and to this story specifically?
I mean, I love broken, human, real sort of people, right? And the very first time I read it, like I had a visceral emotional reaction to what was happening with Walt. And I thought, oh, that doesn't always happen when I read the script. Let me read it again. Maybe I'm just in a weird place in my own feels right now. And then I did, and it didn't stop. And I couldn't stop thinking about how much more I wanted to delve into it. And so I wrote my people back immediately. I was like, please, let's set up a Zoom ASAP. I don't want this to go another way. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And jumped on a Zoom with Matt and Jen. And then we had to restart it twice because
Because of
the 40, the free
strikes
Zoom
and
went down. And
yeah.
before, Zooms don't usually last that long. And, but by the time we got to the end of it, I was like, I know these people, I vibe with these people, and I feel like I've been friends with them for a long time. If they want to do this, I'm ready to do it.
Is that why you felt, okay, I've never been a producer before. I feel comfortable enough to jump into that role on this film?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it so much. I love the writing. One of the first things that I saw was Matt Short, and he has this incredible way of allowing you to sit in moments that are a little uncomfortable and then become funny. And then you sit in them a little more and they become even funnier. And I
Yeah.
thought, wow, that's like, there's just something special about his eye and the way he attacks stuff. And I really want to be a part of that. And I think I can help actually elevate this a little bit. And that wasn't necessarily the case before. I mean, I have interest in producing, I have interest in directing, but I really felt like this was the first legit project that I thought, hey, I can be of service to help tell this story to the best of my ability outside of just the realm of acting. So I was very happy to do so when they were, agreeable upon it.
I had the pleasure of talking to Kelly O'Sullivan earlier this year for Ghostlight, who plays your hopefully fiance. Um, uh, she was absolutely delightful, and it
Yeah.
looked like you guys had so much fun playing off of each other in this film. How was it? I'm sure you're not going to be like, oh, it was awful, but like, tell me how what it
No,
was like working
it
with
was
her.
amazing. I've known Kelly for like 20 years now. We both come from the Chicago theater scene, right? So like once I signed on and then, producerial stuff started coming about, we started going through the names of what they were thinking on. They wanted my input in this. And very rarely do actors get input, or
Yeah.
at least in my experience so far, very rarely does this actor get input about, who's going to be opposite, right? And I saw Kelly's name, and my face just lit up. But I didn't want to steer the hand in a difficult or a biased sort of direction. Like, obviously, I want them to be able to tell the story that they've been envisioning for multiple years, and I've only been on for a small period of time. And I trust their instincts because they came to me, right? So if they
Yeah.
didn't necessarily feel that Kelly was the right one for it, I would do my best to push as much as I can for her, but I didn't want to override anything. So I actually played it quite cool. And I just kept on saying, like, like we've brushed up against each other in Chicago, and she's brilliant upon brilliant, like if this is the direction you want to go, I would stamp it almost immediately. And, I think they read between the tea leaves, as they
Yeah.
say, because I
Yeah.
was very, very excited to have a friend and a familiar face there with me, which almost hardly ever happens anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say you're a dog person?
I am a dog person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
How was
don't have a
it?
dog yet, but I have had them throughout my life. But I have two small children, an 8-year-old boy and an almost 5-year-old girl, and I think we're just getting to the place where a pup is going to be entering our overall lifestyle soon.
How was working with Mr. Tibbs? Was he a complete diva?
I want to say yes, like I want to make the joke, but no, not at all. In fact, him and I bonded so quickly that the hardest thing to do in this film was to pretend that I was annoyed being around him. And you actually see in the one of the final scenes, you know, where she and I finally come together, and she's looking at my nose, and then I say I'm gonna go downstairs and go to sleep. The way we had it set up is that Carrie, his mom, was downstairs with a little toy to activate him, to get him to follow me. And that take that we have, she didn't even get to use the toy. Like, she didn't see that I was coming down the stairs. He just followed me naturally. And I think that's a testament to, you know, like the relationship we built along the way.
There's some overlap between Waltz and Edgar, the character you played on You're the Worst. Both are
Mm-hmm.
kind of anxious characters. One has a more positive outlook, I would say. There's that speech at the table at the end of the film where you talk about how Kelly's character should want a different person, and that felt very reminiscent to something like, you know, Stephen Falk would write. So my question is, is that sort of you talked a little bit about that broken characterness. Can you expand a little bit more about like the connections between those two projects?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I always thought was really amazing about Steven, and I would hear him say this when we were at events for You're the Worst, is that people would ask him, like, why suddenly have we delved so far into, you know, Aya's depression storyline or Edgar's PTSD storyline? And the best way Steven would describe it, he's like, I'm a piano player, right? And I've
Yeah,
got a full set of keys. I would be doing everyone, including myself as an artist, an unjust service if I only stuck to certain chords or didn't take it up an octave. And when you have these four people here who are, you know, have the ability of such great range, I want to play every key that they have. And so I think the same sensibilities came with Jen while she was writing this, and Matt while he was crafting it, and, you know, helping us on set while he was directing and already starting to pre-edit in his mind, that they wanted, you know, Walt in particular to be able to play every single key, man. And funny enough, that scene, Jen had gone through iterations of it. And the night before we shot it, we had gotten a new version earlier that day. And Kelly and I were talking about it. And it seemed like we had fallen sort of away from what was most gripping about that
right.
scene. And so Jen went home, went through other earlier versions she had, and then just kind of scrapped it all. And we got what almost the original version of that scene was. And it was bare and it was broken, and it gave us the green light to just kind of go for it, right? You know, like and the thing is, like so many times in movies, if people, or in television shows or stories in general, people have these fights and then all of a sudden, like, they either, oh, they get back together and it's
Yeah,
all great, or they break up and that's the end of them. But that's not real life, right? Like, people have, you know, bouts. They argue with each other. There's emotion that's spilling obviously between these people who
yeah,
continually, Walt and Wendy just aren't connecting, right? And for someone to like be able to so openly lay down all of it on the line and
yeah,
finally say what he thinks about himself in front of her and in front of her parents, like, that is that is playing those keys to an unbelievable amount, in my opinion. And so I don't know. I'm very thankful for that opportunity, because it doesn't necessarily happen all the time. And Jen and Matt were just letting us fly that night. We were just kind of going for it, and what we got, we got. And I think that's one of those like happy accident moments where we just like finally hit the same emotional plane and went for it.
there's something that happens in your eyes during that scene, and I like watching you and then hearing that line delivered. I audibly went, "Ooh!" Like it was one of the most relatable things I've
I,
ever witnessed on
I,
film.
I, I won't lie that that's not like a line that I've actually thought to myself
Yeah, I
during
think
all my
everybody
own
has
previous,
that.
right. And like, that's the thing. And like, that's like when you talk about Stephen Falk and certain things that him and our fantastic writers room was writing on You're the Worst, and what Jen did here is like they wrote real real lines that all of us think and probably have said, and when you get to the opportunity to like deliver those, like there's no sugarcoating it. You're
No.
either going to give it or it's going to come off really false, right? And so for that, it's just like strip it all away, bring whatever your past experiences are, and just let it fly. Let it really fly.
That show was so special and I think captured something that like, now we're getting a lot of television about millennials, but I feel like that show just like was at the right time, didn't get enough recognition. I still recommend that show all the time. It was one of my favorites. It is one of my favorites. I can't believe it's 10 years old now. That's crazy.
I know it makes all of us feel so old because we're all like babies and we like
Yeah.
became adults and actual humans in the world
And like
during the
all of
run of
you are
that show.
super successful now too. So it's insane. I did want to talk about Only Murders for a second.
Sure.
You look like you're having such a great time on that show. Please tell me you're having a good time.
It was by far one of the coolest experiences, right? Like not only are you dealing with iconic legends who are still at the very tip top of their game, right? But on top of it, they're so amazing. All
Yeah,
Marty and Steve want to do, and I'm not name dropping here, he
yeah,
likes to be called Marty, right? Like he introduces himself as Marty
yeah.
to everyone. But all they do is take the piss out of each other the entire time and then, tell jokes. And so you have John Hoffman, who's probably like one of the most easygoing, always smiling, always up for a new sort of take on a joke showrunner. Then you've got Steve and Marty and Selena, who are absolutely brilliant and
Amazing.
phenomenal, and just so great at allowing impulses to sort of happen, even if we're going in a completely different direction. And then you have everyone else who is in this room with us. I did my very first commercial with Richard Kind when I first got out of acting school.
That's amazing.
Encore frozen foods. I fall in from a parachute out of an airplane into a frozen foods aisle, and he tells me that I look hungry, and he hands me a frozen food thing. Right, Kumail, I've been following forever, like so proud of him. Like, what a talent that gentleman is. What an insanely funny guy. I'm a rent head, like from a teenager point. So
Yeah.
Daphne Rubin Vega is a queen among queens. So to be able to like have her
She's
be
your
my
wife.
TV wife
Yeah, that's
was
amazing.
very seamless and easy. And everyone else, I mean, Eugene Levy, Jesus, Zach, Eva. So like literally, I don't want to say like a bucket list thing because I don't plan on dying anytime soon, but it was by far one of the most magical experiences. And when I was 6 years old, I was so in love with the movie Three Amigos that I made everyone call me Ned Needlander. So like being
Oh
opposite
yeah.
Marty for like my very first time on set with them was like literally 6 year old Desmond's dream come true. So if it looks like we're having fun, it's because we are. We're having
Good,
tons of
good,
fun on
good.
that show.
Did Richard remember you?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Okay, good, good.
And the thing that I remembered most about Richard, and I wanted to see if it was true, he never curses on set. If something happens, he says sugar. And I
Nice.
remembered that from the commercial. And one
Yeah.
day, there was like some stuff going on. And sometimes as actors, you get like a weird swallow and the
Mm.
rhythm doesn't quite flow. And all of a sudden I heard from behind me, sugar. And I was like, oh, he did it again. Like, I don't know. That's just he himself holds a very special place in my heart.
Oh, I love that man. He's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of on Hangman? Is there like a moment, a line, a delivery,
I'm just really proud overall that we took this little indie film
or
with
Hangdog? Sorry, I said
Hang,
Hangman. Sorry.
that's okay. I also like Hangman. That's a fun game.
Good.
I didn't even clock it actually because I knew what you meant. But I think in general, when so few and far between now are these indie films with such a minuscule budget like actually being produced. And then once they are, actually getting the opportunity to gain distribution and be in the place that we are. So I'm extremely proud of the team from the very get with what Jen and Matt were doing all the way through filming. We had an incredible crew. Every single person on this crew could have been off doing amazing big budget jobs, and yet we all fell into the same timeline and cylinder, and we're doing that. And for it to be like out, coming out, us publicizing it, having a ridiculous team on that front, it just, it gives me a lot of hope in general for smaller budget indie films and the need and the want that people have for stories that actually show real human people in times of need and have maybe a little bit of hope and laughter that come along with it. It's not big budget flashy stuff. I love the idea that there's still a place for films like this within, the landscape.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.